The Indiana portal era, as you know it, may already be ending. I know many of you say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, because Curt Cignetti built this thing by attacking the transfer portal harder and smarter than anybody else in the country. Look, you're not wrong if you're saying that. Indiana may still bring in another transfer quarterback next offseason, but hear me out, here on the Big Ten Huddle presented to you by FanDuel, because the commitment of Monshun sales, or the commitments of Monshun sales and Lukas Prock, are not just recruiting wins. They could be the defining moments that will let Indiana stop having to build rosters with 20 plus player portals and start building a football roster that gets an entire career to develop their players. Which, if you've seen Cignetti develop players in just a year or two, imagine if he's got some really good players to develop for longer than that. You see, in a span of 6 days, Curt Cignetti was able to land two of the highest rated commitments in the country and the two highest rated commitments in program history. Sales became the first 5-star commitment Indiana football has ever landed. Then Prock, one of the top quarterbacks in the 2028 class, chose the Hoosiers after being pursued by programs that include Ohio State, Notre Dame, Michigan, Florida, Oregon, and Texas. 4 of those programs have higher odds to win the national championship on FanDuel than Indiana does. Of course, Indiana was the one that still got the recruit. So, and this is not just about one hot week since Cignetti's staff arrived. Indiana has landed 6 of the 10 highest rated recruits in program history and 9 of the top 15. And that is almost as insane as him winning the national championship altogether. And with that kind of success, they are obviously going to start leaning on building their roster more, not all the way, but more through recruiting than in the portal. Not that Indiana suddenly hates the portal. That's not what I'm getting at here. Not that Cignetti is going to stop taking experienced players. He's not going to do that. He's told us he likes taking experienced players. It's just that Indiana may no longer need the portal to create a chunk of their roster in the offseason like they have had to before. For the first 2 years, the portal was Indiana's fastest path to finding talent and bringing it in as quickly as they could. Some of that talent was talent that Cignetti had at James Madison. Some of it was talent that he had faced previously at James Madison. Cignetti inherited a program that did not have time for a slow, patient rebuild. He needed veterans. He needed players who already understood his standards. He needed people who could walk into Bloomington and excite everybody just like he was able to and win immediately. And it worked. Indiana made the playoffs in 2024 and deserved to be there, no matter what Lane Kiffin wants to say at SEC Media Days. Then it went undefeated and won the national championship in 2025. Still pretty insane that I say that, but that success changed what recruits believed was possible in Bloomington. The recruits are now seeing Bloomington as you can make it all the way. You can win the Heisman. You can win a national championship there. But the portal was never supposed to be the finished product of Indiana. It was the bridge. You see, the way Cignetti is operating, it's clear that he wasn't a high school he wasn't just a high school recruiting at Alabama. He also wants to have a foundation of it at James Madison, at Indiana, and the foundation when he got to Indiana was built off a lot of those guys that he did get through recruiting. And Indiana may finally be crossing that bridge. The lazy national narrative has treated Indiana like a temporary story. They act like all it was a great coach and he'll be retiring soon with some smart portal pickups, fun run, enjoy it while it lasts. But that explanation is getting harder and harder to defend. The national media is wrong about why Indiana keeps winning. They want to tell you that this is a portal trick. Curt Cignetti finds older players, plugs them into the system, and wins for a year and does it, and then they'll eventually drop off once they can't have a good portal class. But teams like that do not normally land the 2 highest rated recruits in school history in a matter of 6 days. Temporary programs do not beat Ohio State, Notre Dame, Alabama, Texas, and Michigan for elite high school players. The portal made Indiana competitive fast. Winning made Indiana credible, and now high school recruiting is going to start the national media recognizing that Indiana is sustainable. That it isn't just part of a flash in the pan crowd does not want to admit. Indiana is no longer relying on veteran additions alone. It is recruiting its future, and the future is bright. And good thing too, living through the portal every year, it can be very exhausting. It can be a little anxiety driven. Every December you're trying to replace starters. Every spring you are wondering who leaves. Every season, not spring because you're not in the spring portal anymore, but every position group feels like it has an expiration date. You can win that way, sure. Indiana already proved it, but it is much harder to build continuity that way, and you still want to get players through recruiting out of the high school ranks, because when you recruit high school players, develop them for 2 or 3 years and keep them in the same system, your roster starts carrying knowledge from one season to the next. Your leaders are not learning the culture when they come in, or not having to learn from leaders when they come in. They are actively teaching it to the younger guys who are coming in. That's the difference between assembling a good team and building a program. Now, here is the part that might surprise you the most. Lukas Prock may be the most important part of Indiana's future recruiting, more important than Monshun Sales. Not necessarily as a player, not that he's better than Sales. I'm not trying to get into that discussion. Sales could walk onto campus in 2027 and immediately become Indiana's, one of their most dangerous weapons. Could be a starting wide receiver year one. It could happen. He has the size, the speed, the vertical ability to play early. I'd play some film for you here if we had time, but I don't have time for a 30-minute video. Wish I did. But Prock is a quarterback committing at the beginning of the 2028 class. That gives Indiana something every recruiting staff desperately wants, and that is a player who can become the face of the entire class. That is a player who can recruit for the entire class. Prock has already said he is excited to start recruiting other players and plans to get to work immediately. Indiana has early targets at running back, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line, all those players on offense. Several have already visited Bloomington, while others plan to attend Indiana's home game against Ohio State. That is how one commitment grows into an entire class. You see, when one of your first commitments to a class is landing a quarterback, he does more than just throw passes. He gives receivers a reason to listen. He gives offensive linemen a picture of what they may protect. He gives running backs confidence that the offense will stay balanced and dangerous. Lukas Prock is already talking about recruiting other players to Indiana. That means Cignetti and his staff do not have to sell the 2028 class anymore. His quarterback can help sell it with him. That is how elite classes start, not with 15 random commitments, with one centerpiece and a group of people who want to build around him and buy in. And if that starts happening consistently, it changes not only things for Indiana, but it changes the Big Ten too, because Indiana is not stealing these players from the bottom half of the sport, G6 programs. Sales stayed home and chose Indiana over programs like Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, Texas. Prock held offers from nearly every major Big Ten program and from the SEC and ACC programs as well. For years, traditional powers could look at Indiana and tell them they had a nice season, but they can't recruit at the same level as the Blue Bloods and teams like that. But now Indiana has an answer, not necessarily in the rankings still. They don't have the highest ranked class in the world. They're only top 30 in the On3 industry rankings for the 2027 class. But that's because Cignetti still likes the portal. He still sees value in plucking experienced players and bringing them in to play at Indiana. And that is where the pressure shifts. Programs like Penn State, Michigan, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and even Ohio State now have another Big Ten opponent competing for the same premium players in recruiting and also in the portal as well. Indiana is now competing for premium prospects from the beginning. Now, like I said, Indiana, they're not finished using the portal, especially not with QBs. Prock is in the 2028 class. Don't forget that. He does not arrive until 2028, and young quarterbacks need time. I want Indiana to give Tyler Cherry a shot for sure, but Cignetti is never going into a season with a question mark at QB. Bringing in another experienced player would protect Indiana from rushing its development or experienced inexperienced options. We saw this with Alberto Mendoza. It sucks. I was rooting for Alberto a ton, but that is big boy roster management in the best conference in the country, the Big Ten. I truly do not believe Cignetti's goal is not to stop using the portal. The goal is to stop needing the portal to rescue the roster, and there is a huge difference there. Sorry, I need a drink really fast. My throat's getting dry. All right. Like I was saying, Indiana should absolutely take another transfer quarterback if the right one becomes available. If they do, that does not mean the high school recruiting plan failed. The portal should fill specific needs, not rebuild half the roster. If Indiana can add one experienced quarterback while developing its younger players and preparing Tyler Cherry or Lukas Prock for the future, that is smart roster construction. The mistake would be forcing a young, inexperienced quarterback onto the field just to prove that you're done with the transfers. Indiana is not trying to win an argument about the portal. Indiana is trying to keep winning football games while the next generation gets ready. Cignetti doesn't care about narratives or what people say, and neither should Indiana fans. Just win, baby, and the talk will become irrelevant. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think Indiana should keep using the portal in the future? Let me know. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. So, what would prove Indiana has truly outgrown the portal dependence? For me, Cignetti has already proven he can identify players. He has proven he can develop them. He has proven he can win with transfers. Now he is going to prove he can recruit a roster that sustains itself. And honestly, that may be even more dangerous than anything Indiana has done so far. Because a portal-built Indiana can flame out in a year or two if Cignetti retires or maybe he starts losing it, which I don't think is going to happen. But if that did happen, but a well-recruited, talented roster would be incredibly enticing for somebody like a Bryant Haynes or a Mike Shanahan to stick around for and take over after Cignetti retires, which obviously I'm not rooting for to happen anytime soon, just acknowledging the inevitable and also looking at it and saying, hey, Shanahan or Haynes might be saying, I would love to have this job when Cignetti steps down. Because if Indiana can set themselves up well with recruiting for the next few years, that will show that Indiana is not just a program surging under Curt Cignetti, it's a program that will last longer under the new coach and the next coach and the next coach, and that would surpass them from just being a birth of a new Big Ten power and make IU a fully grown Big Ten power the rest of the conference is going to have to get used to dealing with for the years to come. Now subscribe to the Big Ten Huddle for more Big Ten analysis, and tell me in the comments, how many elite recruiting classes does Indiana need before you consider this program fully sustainable and not have to go through the portal? Go ahead and follow us on X, Instagram, and follow me on TikTok, the Big Ten Huddle on X and Instagram, and then JRS_rankings on TikTok for the Big Ten content. And I also do Ohio State content over there as well because I do an Ohio State show too. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.